Okay, would everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? And I'm going to ask Councilman Lupinacci to lead us this evening.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Sean? Yeah. Yes, I just did. Yep. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before we get started this evening, I do want to mention that we had a young boy who resided in the community that his name was Sean Callahan. I just want to report some sad news to you that after his long and valiant battle with pediatric brain cancer, he succumbed to that a couple of days ago, and our whole community is mourning his loss because he meant so much to this community. He was an inspiration to all of us. He was a true fighter right until the end, and we're really very saddened by his passing. And we have this entire community, thoughts and prayers are with Sean's family. You know, they had the funeral mass for him today at St. John's, and it was actually attended by Cardinal Dolan from New York City, who was at the funeral mass. And so that's how special a young man he was. The West Point football team was there because, as you know, he participated in a football game last year for West Point, and I believe he scored 3 touchdowns for the West Point team. So he was very, very special. Largest fundraiser. He raised the most money for the American Cancer Society Relay for Life this past June. He raised the most money that has ever been raised by anyone in this community, or I think it could be across the United States, if I'm not mistaken. So he's going to be truly missed, and you know, it's very painful to have to report this because I had an appointment with Sean to take him on the police boat around Lake Mayapack about a month or so ago. The arrangements were made. He wanted to go out on the lake. He wanted to go out on the lake in the police boat. I took care of that. I made the arrangements with the chief of police, and the chief gave me a hat with Town of Carmel Police for him to wear while he's out on the lake, and sadly that never happened. I wasn't able to do that, and he became very ill just after we had agreed to made the arrangements to take him out, and so I wasn't able to do that, and I'm very upset about that and saddened by that, but let's keep him and his family in our thoughts and prayers during this very, very difficult time. And we're going to miss Sean. A lot of us who were very close to him were inspired by him, his fight, and his life will go on, but we'll never forget the memories of Sean. And I just want to say, Sean, rest in peace.
God bless.
Okay, and God bless. All right. Thank you all for being here this evening for this meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, and for you at home for watching. Tonight's meeting is a Town Board work session, but before we move on to our work session, we have a public hearing this evening in the matter of the increase and improvement of the facilities of Carmel Sewer District Number 1. And before we get started, I'm going to ask our Deputy Town Clerk, Phyllis Borges, to please read the notice of the public hearing. Sure. Phyllis?
Legal notice. Notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York, will meet at the Town Hall, 60 McAlpin Avenue in Mayapack, New York, on August 26, 2015, at 7:00 p.m. prevailing time for the purpose of conducting a public hearing upon a certain map, plan, and report, including an estimate of cost in relation to the proposed increase and improvement of the facilities of Carmel Sewer District Number 1. In said town, consisting of the reconstruction of sewer lines for infiltration and inflow remediation, including incidental improvements and expenses in connection therewith at a maximum estimated cost of $1,112,310. Said capital project has been determined to be a Type 2 action pursuant to the regulations of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, promulgated pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQR. the implementation of which, as proposed, said regulations provide will not result in any significant environmental effects. At said public hearing, said town board will hear all persons interested in the subject matter thereof. The town board will make every effort to assure that the public hearing is accessible to persons with disabilities, anybody requiring special assistance and/or reasonable accommodations should contact the town clerk. Dated Mayapack, New York, August 13th, 2015, by order of the town board of the town of Carmel, Ann Spofford, town clerk.
Okay, thank you, Phyllis. I need a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
So moved by Councilwoman McDonough, seconded by Councilman Lupinacci. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, before we get started, and I should have mentioned this earlier, but I apologize. We have our Deputy Town Clerk, Phyllis Borges, filling in for Ann Spofford this evening. And all the way down to my left is Greg Fulchetti, the Town of Carmel Town Attorney. And all board members are present this evening with the exception of Councilman Schneider and Councilman Lombardi, who weren't able to attend this evening due to prior obligations. But the rest of the board, as you see, is present this evening. So I apologize for that. I just forgot to mention that before we got started. Okay, so at this time, the public hearing is open for the Carmel Sewer District Number 1 improvements. This is to the improvements to the sewer main in downtown Mahopac Business District. Does anybody want to come up at this time? I don't believe anybody signed up as a speaker, but does anybody that's here now want to speak on this evening? There being none? Yes, sir?
Thank you. I can stand. I can stand up, Kenny. I can stand. That's all right. Yeah.
I was gonna say he'd come up.
I'd just like to know how you plan on billing the people and how you plan on billing the multiple family dwellings for this assessment to cover this expense.
I'm not sure if I understand your question. Can you say it one more
Well,
time?
if somebody has a 10-family house,
Right.
how would you bill them as opposed to somebody has a 2-family or a single-family dwelling?
Okay, thank you. I'm going to defer to our counsel. to
The capital projects are dealt with, each property is assigned a capital value, and your taxes are based upon that, and it is a calculation of frontage and acreage that gives you a value for a given property. So every parcel is assessed that way, and it's given its share of whatever the existing capital charges are, if there are any, and the new capital charges that'll be a result of when this project is bid and built. You follow?
So go by your assessment?
There's a calculation to assign a unit value, capital value to each parcel in the district.
Yeah.
Okay?
Is everybody that hooked up to the sewer going to have to pay?
Any parcel that has access to a main will have to pay unless they've had their capital units reduced to 0 under the town code, and that's an application that can be made by a property owner to either the town engineer or the assessor if you're not benefited by a main, by having access to the property, which is to the sewer main, which is possible to be in the district theoretically and not be able to access a main over your own property. But that's an application. You look at your tax bill, and if you don't think that you're benefited, there's an application you put in through engineering that goes through the assessor's office to reduce that number. And that's, again, that's
This is just for the improvement of the pipes down in the hamlet of Mayapack, running out 6N and down Route 6, not the whole system?
Correct. This is, DEC has notified the town that there was incident at the Sewer 1 plant where certain influent sewage flow was bypassed. The town doesn't run the plant, DEP does. Okay, the city does, and what's happened is DEC found out about what they believed to be a bypass, meaning influent came into the plant and wasn't treated in accordance with the effluent standards, so they violated the town and they violated DEP, and the position is, on the town's perspective, we own the collection system, the sewer pipes, and that there's certain improvements that need to be done to the pipes to limit or eliminate what's known as infiltration and inflow, groundwater or surface water getting into the pipes in addition to the sewage flow. And this particular project is one of our milestones with respect to that notice of violation, where the pipes and the manholes will be sealed and, is it sleeved? Okay, so that it will reduce or eliminate the groundwater and surface water infiltration into it and reduce the instances where the plant is charged, where there's excess flow that's not sewer flow.
What do they do with the revenue that they collect from the taxpayers that are in sewer district number 1? What expenses does that cover?
It covers the capital cost, it covers the operation and maintenance costs,
Operation of what?
the operation and maintenance of the system itself.
Isn't the sewer plant maintained and operated by New York City?
Absolutely, but the collection system is maintained and operated and owned by the town of Carmel.
Do you know how much the revenue that comes in annually from the sewer tax is?
Offhand, I do not.
Nobody knows.
Oh, no, we
No,
know it, we just don't have it.
We could get the answer, we just don't have it this evening. We didn't know that.
A controller's question, there's an amount that's budgeted every year for revenue in that district for capital and
You
O&M.
have a budget book?
I mean, when the sewer district was expanded up Route 6 from Croton Falls Road to Bowling Lane, we were told there was adequate capacity for anything.
Adequate capacity for flows if those particular parcels connected. Okay? What is happened is during the winter thaw and the wet season, over the past 2 or 3 years, the plant has taken in excess flow, in excess of its own capacity. And what has been pointed to is, during those wet seasons, groundwater and surface water are getting into the collection system and ending up in the plant.
Only when there's a storm?
Not storm. Thaw and the wet season. So in March and April, when the snow thaws and frost comes out of the ground and it's raining,
Yeah.
these are the instances where there's been a spike.
It doesn't seem logical to me that they don't log it in and keep a record as to when these occurrences are.
They do.
So, do they?
They
Do
do.
you have
And
that record?
It's happening in, is it within the report? Do you have the DMRs here? The daily monitoring reports, DMRs?
Yeah, I don't have it.
I'm just looking for the flow record, that's all. Is it in the appendices?
Flows on page 5, Greg?
It's going to be, it'd actually be a G, appendix G?
Appendix G.
Okay.
Here it is. Right here.
Can you read it? It's so light. Okay, so did you have a copy, did you look at the map plan and report that's been filed with the clerk's office?
Say again?
There's a map plan and report that was filed with the clerk's office in accordance with our obligations regarding this particular project. It's document looks like this. In Appendix G of that, you'll see the daily influent flows for the period in March that exceeded capacity, March 25th, March 26th, March 27th. Right to the 30th? Through April 4th, okay? Can't read it, so light. My eyes are so dull.
These are the flows in March.
Yeah.
I'm not reading
Spike.
this.
That's when they get the overflow?
This is when the overflows occur. Here to here.
Yeah.
Okay. If you look on the left-hand side, it's a .3 MGD plant. You see the little notch on the left-hand side on the
March
x-axis?
25th.
Look
March
at,
25th, we're looking at.
Yeah.
okay? Look at March 25th. On the x-axis, you'll see .2, and there's a notch that says .3. You see that?
Yeah.
In handwriting?
It's on the left
That's the
side.
plant capacity.
Oh, right.
Now look at the flow spikes.
A lot higher.
Yeah.
Yeah, that,
This is the plant capacity right here.
Yeah.
And you see where the spikes are?
okay, and that, you can find that on all
0.60. So let's go to April. That's March.
10 or 12 day.
This is April. Actually, it's 3/26/15. March, they continue. Go to the
That's what
next
it's
page.
supposed to be.
During that same period, they seem to have gone down. And this is again, the end of March.
Yeah.
You can get a copy of this.
Okay.
If you'd like one.
I will.
I can get one to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Uh,
But it's all just definitely storm overflow. That's the problem here, that he can't handle it.
What What DEP believes, what our engineering department has investigated, okay, indicates that the excess over the plans are run, is running about 0.2, about 2/3 of capacity, normally? Okay, so it runs at about 65% of capacity normally, okay? And during these periods of time, when there's the thaw and the wet season, it's going to well over 100% of capacity.
It's 65 capacity now,
It runs at about 0.17
after the
MGD.
extension up Route 6.
That's how much flow is in the plant, normal average daily flow.
Yeah.
With what's connected. It's
When the
only the,
extension was put on, we were told, don't worry about it, can handle anything. That's what we were told, you know?
what's being alleged by the DEC is that these spikes, which are in excess of its capacity of 300,000 gallons a day, are from something other than properties connecting.
Well, who controls what gets hooked up to the sewer?
Town does.
I mean, they had a law office down the hamlet of Mayapack that's now converted to a restaurant. You had a cottage on East Lake Boulevard that is now a 3-story house. So who controls that these houses on the sewer, what can be expanded and what can't?
Every tap, every connection to the sewer requires a permit from the engineering department to connect. Okay, if there's a change of use,
Yeah,
if it's
gotcha.
from a single family, go ahead.
Button up, John? It's up?
There you go, you're good.
Up? Does that work?
Yep.
Okay. So the issue at hand here, sir, is not the new connection. The city's plant is permitted to discharge 300,000 gallons of treated wastewater every day of the year. Our average from everything that goes to that plant is about 170,000 gallons a day. During this wet season that we had this particular spring, but we have decades worth of complaints from the city about surcharge flows, not only during the spring melt-off, but during high peak rain flows that occur at any time of the year. And so the problem that occurred this year was that our average rose up, so the base flow was higher, and our spikes that you were looking at with the supervisors when he showed you the report, the spikes average between 600,000 and 1 million gallons on a short-term period, but the base flows are up. And the sewers that are in the Mahopac district, 6N and 6, date back to 1939. They're ancient. All of the videos that we have of them, all of the television inspections that we have of them for years and years and years show cracked pipes, pipes with perforations in them, pipes with holes in them. So we have a component, as council was saying, of groundwater and surface water making its way through the manholes and through the pipes. And that's what contributed to this. Now, we've done this, we did it in 1995. We did some repairs in 95. We did some repairs in 97 or 99, I forget exactly when. And they've been Band-Aids on a system that is essentially ancient. And so the proposition here is that there's a technique for lining those pipes that will seal all of the breaks and all of the cracks and all of the holes that are in them because they're old, and render them whole again. And the same thing applies to the manholes themselves. So it's not simply, it has really nothing to do with extension number one.
When
On the
will
base-
we know?
Just let me finish, please. On the base capacity, what you're citing was correct. When that extension was made with a base flow of or a typical flow of around 170,000 gallons a day on a 300,000 gallon plant, there was adequate capacity to put that in there. And this doesn't have to do with extra connections. What it has to do with is the deteriorated condition of the pipe and the deteriorated condition of the manholes.
When will we know what the cost to our homes will be? Will we get a notice when it's all calculated? And what will you do about illegal hookups to the sewer? Will you cut them off? I mean, it could make some homes inoperable.
That is part of the approach. Part of this process of lining the pipes
Yeah,
requires televising them, because we're gonna slip a liner inside of it. We've gotta be able to cut back to the original legal connections.
yeah.
But there's a methodology within looking at that videotape to say, this here is a bona fide connection and this one's not. And the ones that aren't, and I said this before at the last meeting when we presented this, are not gonna get reopened up. Okay, so the illicit connections from roof leaders and gutters and rooftops and those types of things can be cut off.
When will we know what the cost is going to be? Will it be shortly?
The Comptroller's office
The cost?
will be calculating that,
Okay. All right, thank you.
right?
For the bond is one.
Right, the borrowing authorization that you'll consider next week is for the 1.12 million. Excellent. It does the public works project, it's got to be bid, could come in, that's the estimate with contingencies and the soft costs. So hopefully it comes in less than that. But then there'll be an allocation for every property in the district
I
as to
think
what their
that's what the
share is.
gentleman was asking, the per parcel cost of what, yeah. Yeah,
It may
John,
have been based on a useful life
John's going to
be
clarify
used
that.
also, or they were considering.
On the basis of the cost estimate that council just cited, if the bond goes for 20 years, it's approximately $247 a year. And if the bond goes for 30 years, it's $193.56.
That's a
So there's about a $40 a year differential, depending on which bonding alternative is selected.
Based on the evaluation.
Based on the calculation.
I'm gonna defer the answer to that question, right? I mean,
That's
I
a
know how
typical
much it
property
costs to build a
calculation.
job.
Yeah, it's a typical property calculation, and your units are going to be assessed based upon the unit calculation formula. I just want to add that the town has received a notice of violation from DEC on the matter, and the notice of violation dates back to April. If in the absence of compliance with DEC's directives regarding milestones for compliance, the DEC fine structure is up to $37,500 per day of violation. So when you're in the situation where they violate you and they violate DP also, okay, we have a circumstance where we're going to comply one way or another with the milestone you're going to fight. And those are administrative fines. You don't have the opportunity to do it in court. It's DEC's, state judges, administrative law judges, and if we don't comply with what the directives are, then we're subject to the fine, plural, for whatever period of time. And that becomes a very thorny situation monetarily, so.
We're under a consent order from the New York State DEC. $37,500 a day is what the fine could potentially be, and they have no problem levying those fines because they're looking to generate revenue.
And we don't even have the consent order yet. Consent order is when it's resolved and there's further milestones for compliance or whatever monitoring that you have to do with the repairs. Right now, it's just a notice of violation that's been served. And this is the product of what the discussions with the DEC have yielded, our own monitoring of the pipes, as John said, and what the suggested remedies are, so that that doesn't repeat itself, because they can do it again next year at the same time if it's not remedied, and then there's another set of violations that we're going to be subject to.
Okay. Could I just get your name, sir? Jim McCabe? Okay, Jim, thank you. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to come up and speak regarding the Sewer 1 bonding for the capital work? Okay, all right. Thank you for your comments. All right, there being none, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
So moved by Councilman Lupinacci, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so next week, if you're inclined, you can consider the bond resolution authorizing the borrowing of up to that figure. But you need the majority of the voting, two-thirds majority.
Yeah.
So if we have a short board that week, you have to be guided. Okay.
So you need at least four out of the 5 board
votes to do
members.
that.
We're doing it. All right. Well, we'll make sure that we have enough board members here.
I know that just been.
Yeah, no, thanks,
suggested
Greg.
we don't.
All
so.
right, thank you. Okay, that concludes the public hearing for this evening. We're going to now move on to the regularly scheduled town board work session. And the first item on the agenda is to consider additions to the active list of the Carmel Volunteer Fire Department. Thanks, Phyllis. Carmel Volunteer Fire Department. You can stick around if you'd like to, or if you want to go home, you're dismissed. Thanks, Phyllis. Additions to the Carmel Volunteer Fire Department as probationary members. Their names are Allison Lipton and Melissa DePass. So unless any board members have any comments or questions regarding the board members? I'm sorry, the new members for the Carmel Volunteer Fire Department?
All good?
Okay, there being none. Number 2 on the work session this evening, Rich Franzetti, PE Town Engineer. This is to consider rejecting all bids and advertise for bids for the rehabilitation of the tennis courts at Sycamore Park. John, you going to handle this one?
I'm pinch hitting because
Okay.
he's still stuck in planning.
All right.
The bids for the Sycamore Park Court rehabilitation were taken on July 22nd. The low bid was by Sport Tech Construction for $223,756. The number 2 bid was given by Avello Brothers Contracting for $268,520. We have an apprenticeship program that was in place at the time. Sport Tech didn't have it, and Avello Brothers said that they had it, but they didn't submit it as of the writing of this memo. The original budget for the project was $129,000 based on a grant that was given several years ago. So on the basis of the price and the information flow that existed about the apprenticeship programs, the recommendation from the engineering department is that the bids be rejected and this project be rebid.
Okay.
You have to do that by resolution, and you can do it based upon, the town board has discretion to reject any bids. Okay, but you are significantly over the originally stated budget.
Okay.
If you want to parcel it out in the next bid, do it almost on an à la carte basis, that's fine too. All right.
Okay, all right, we'll do that. Thank you, John. Okay, next item on the agenda is number 3, Rich Franzetti also, but I believe John's going to take this. Town Engineer, consider awarding bid for Camarda Park concession stand and dugouts.
Yes, sir. Bids were taken on Tuesday, August 18th. 2 bidders provided documents. United Concrete Products out of Yalesville, Connecticut, came in with a total bid price of $395,578 for the restroom, concession stand, and dugouts. And Old Castle Precast out of Easton, Pennsylvania, came in at $396,055. This is a tight bid. It's a good bid. The lowest bidder, obviously, is United Concrete by $477. The engineering department checked their references. All of them came out very positive for the capability of this particular organization. The original budget for the project was $447,776. So on that basis, we're about $50,000 lower than what the original budget was, and we recommend that the award go to United Concrete Products,
Okay,
unless you have questions.
all right, United Concrete Products out of Yalesville, Connecticut?
Correct.
All right, and this is for, just for the benefit of the public, this is for the new bathrooms. It's for the concession stand and storage facilities up at Camarda Park. They currently use porta sands up there for the residents and the visitors' use, and
And the new dugouts for the
and the
ball fields.
dugouts,
That's for 4
right?
fields.
And the
For 4
new dugouts will be for the 2 baseball fields, the 60-foot bases and the 90-foot bases, correct?
Correct.
Football and baseball, yeah.
Softball and baseball.
Correct.
So each field is going to get 2 dugouts at each field for a total of 4 dugouts. Now, the dugouts, the cost for those is being encumbered by a grant funding from New York State.
Correct.
So it's $100,000, there was a $150,000 grant. $50,000 of that went towards the new playground and other improvements and upgrades down at the Chamber Park in Mahopac. So that left $100,000 in the budget to pay for the cost of the dugouts. So, Jim, did you want to speak a little bit about the remainder of the funding for the cost? Because I think this is important that everybody hears where the funding's coming from, aside from the $100,000 grant for the dugout. So, Jim, you want to explain where?
Yeah, we have two grants that are funding the projects at Camarda Park. You have the one you just explained for the $150,000 grant for the Chamber Park and also for Camarda Park for the dugouts. The other grant was a $200,000 grant that we had from Senator Ball for the building. Both grants were from Senator Ball for the dugouts and also for the building. So we had the $200,000 for the building. The remainder of the balance was to come from the Parkland Trust Fund.
Which is the old developers fund?
Yes, yep.
Okay, and that's about 50,000 that's coming from there?
No, we
than that?
encumbered about $147,000 from the Parkland Trust Fund for this project. And John was saying that we're, about 50,000 under budget?
Correct.
So of that 50,000, currently, the other expenses would be to hook up the building, the final hookups for the electric, sewer, and water. And the Carmel Highway Department will be preparing a pad for this building and also for the dugouts, so there'll be some funds that will be available for that. But they were minimal costs that we're going to have through our highway department.
And the highway's going to be skinning the fields also?
Yeah, and that's going to...
Understanding?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the highway department will be doing a tremendous amount of work up at Camarda Park this fall.
Going up, yeah.
His numbers... So no, we have them in writing from Mike, so we got firm numbers.
Got that good.
Yep. So when you were talking about skinning the fields, that'll be coming out of the general fund. We have that. We did budget transfers about a couple months ago, so we have those funds available in the Camarda Park line.
Okay, so we got $350,000 in grant funding from New York State to
Yes.
Senator Ball,
Yep.
and the remainder from the Developers Fund,
That's correct.
Parkland Trust Fund.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
So we're well covered. We're going to be closing the park down, I think on Monday, October 4th. They front-loaded the baseball games, so they'll be played. All the home games will be in September. The fields will be closed the beginning of October, so our highway department can get in and do the work. The building will be set. The dugouts will be set. We'll remove the grass from the infields, bring new clay in. So the park will be finished for, obviously, for the spring. We're going to try to get everything done in the winter if we can. And Carmel Sports Association is preparing for their 20-year anniversary next spring. So that should be a great surprise for them when they go back up there.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yeah, they've been waiting for the new concession stand, the bathrooms, and the dugouts since the grand opening there, since the ribbon cutting. So it's been about probably 4 years, I would say. 4 or 5 years that
Oh my
they.
God, yeah, it's been going on for a while.
So
Ever
they're
since
really
we
looking.
finished the
They're
park,
really
we've
looking
been-
forward.
we haven't had the funds. If we didn't get these grants, these projects would have not gone forward. We don't have the money in the Parkland Trust Fund to fund them.
Yep.
So we've had the ideas, the plans, and just is idle waiting. And then when those two grants came through, we were able to get rolling. And I want to thank the engineering department. They've worked so hard on getting these projects to this point. And Susie and John were every other Tuesday morning, 7:30. They're pushing myself along and Rich and John. So it's taken a while to get to this point. So
All right.
I think you'll be very happy with what.
All right. Real quick, Jim, within a minute or two.
Yeah.
Just go over the new playground equipment for the Chamber Park. When is that being delivered? When do we anticipate that's going to be installed?
We had a tentative date. They were supposed to start Monday of this week, which it got pushed back about a week or so. The company Compan that we're dealing with, they were tied up on a couple school playgrounds that they had to get obviously finished before school opened up. So I was notified on Tuesday that they're projecting to bring the equipment, have it delivered on Friday, and start doing the install on Friday. I want to make sure when they start the installation that it's completed within 2 days. I don't want to have equipment delivered and just laying down and waiting for the installers. So the Compan and the installers now are coordinating this, and it'll either be this Friday or definitely next Monday, and it should be about a 2-day installation. So, and that'll be in and out. Once that's done, we'll be getting into the fence work along Sycamore Road, going out to the point, and then we'll be working on some drainage issues in the front of the park. The engineering department finalized the plans for that, so we'll be removing some walkways and bringing in some topsoils. So, and you saw the new sign from the Eagle Scout?
Yeah, it looks great. He did it.
Really
Eagle
came
Scout did a wonderful job on that.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
Little by little, it's coming
Yeah,
along.
it's looking good.
I know.
All right, you've exceeded your time.
All right,
Your 2
thanks.
minutes. Thanks, Jim.
You got it.
All right, thanks for being here. John, thank you. Okay, any further questions or comments from the board regarding this? No? Okay. Yeah, I want to thank the Town of Carmel Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee for all the work that they've done up to this point and beyond with the Camarda Park project. They put a lot of time and hours and a lot of discussion and dialogue, research, and things like that into getting that project to where it is now. And I just want to publicly thank Bob Buckley and his committee for the work that they've done on that. And thank you and Susie too. John, you and Susie as the liaisons to the Recreation Committee. Thank you for your work also on that. Appreciate it. Okay, all right, next item on the agenda, number 4, is Glenn Droce. He couldn't be with us here this evening. He had a family matter he had to take care of, and this is to consider a proposal for pictometry aerial photography for the Town of Carmel. And I have this memo from Glenn that he asked me to read to the board and to the public. To Supervisor Schmidt and Carmel Town Board, this is a request to purchase pictometry aerial photography. Pictometry aerial photography is a high-resolution oblique imagery currently used in many towns throughout New York State, including all towns in Westchester County. This imagery proposal would provide us with an aerial images of the entire town, similar to what would be found on Bing Maps, bird's eye view, etc. But these would be taken at a higher 3-inch resolution. Councilman Lupinacci is holding up a sector map of the Town of Carmel. It's a grid that the Town of Carmel.
I don't have that.
Is that the one you're holding up?
No, I don't have the sector map. There you go.
I have it. All right. Sorry, John.
It's all right.
These are the neighborhood. It's a neighborhood sector map. Camera, if you can just zoom in on that, please, while I'm reading this. At a 3-inch resolution with the images and software that would allow us to measure buildings in the town from a desktop computer and determine which buildings have changed over time. This ties into the 2016 reassessment project in that this imagery will be used for the quality control checks of buildings throughout the town. It is also expected that we will have many inquiries come in regarding the accuracy of the square footage of buildings. This would be a tool used to save time and fuel due to us not having to drive out to the parcels and check the measurements. This imagery and software would likely be useful to many other town departments, including the Town of Carmel Police Department, Building Department, and Engineering Department. So the proposed total cost is $30,047 and allows up to 50 users for the software on their desktops and computers. Computers and tablets will be able to access this, this data. So John is holding up is what's called a neighborhood sector grid for the Town of Carmel. There's actually 50 grids in the Town of Carmel. Each grid identifies a certain sector within the community, a certain neighborhood or geography of the Town of Carmel. That's how close and how tight these resolutions are for the aerial views of the Town of Carmel. They can actually zoom right in to a property. John was holding this up earlier, but there's a sector, you still have it? There's a sector here of the community. This is one of the sector grids in the community. You can actually zoom right in and look at the building from the aerial view of the property. So you can see the entire property that closely you're sitting at your computer in your office. So the building department and the assessor's office could just go to this software program. You could look up you put the address in of the property, and it'll bring you right to the grid where the property is located, and then you can zoom in on it, and you can look right down onto the roof, the walls, the yard, the property, the parking lot, wherever you'd like to take a look at without having to drive out there. So it is going to be useful. It actually gives dimensions. It'll give you aerial dimensions of the building. So if the property owner increased the dimensions of the building without obtaining a building permit, you can just tell by you look at the existing size of the building that's on the building permit, the square footage of it, the dimensions of it, and if the building's been increased, you'll be able to determine that from this. So it is useful software for I'm going to say all the departments within the Town of Carmel. In fact, Highway Department can actually use this software as well to look at streets, catch basins, and stormwater lines throughout the Town of Carmel as well. So, and they'll have access to that from the highway department. So I think it's good software for us to, John and Susie, if you want to add anything to this, go right ahead at this time.
The only thing that I would add, because you've covered it all, it's not only going to be used for the town employees or for the town. Residents will be able to, and we haven't decided this yet, they'll either be able to log on to our website if you're looking to buy a piece of property. Realtor coming in could come to the town hall, to the assessor's office or the building department, or if we give the public access to it, and you're interested in inquiring or soliciting information on a particular property as an investment, you'll be able to use this also. So, you know, up front, it's going to help with the reassessment, and it will always help with the highway engineering and building. But the general public and the real estate market will also benefit from this. That, again, we're trying to get the information, be able to push it to you or readily available, as opposed to coming in and leafing through, you know, hard copy pieces of paper and stuff like that. So.
Okay, thanks, John. Susie, anything to
I
add?
was just going to add that they were saying that some of the pictures, we don't have to start fresh because they have pictures from 2014. So the ones that we take now, you can actually see if anything has been added to or deleted from 2014. So we can actually start up with it right away.
Okay, all right, good. All right, I think it's a good investment for the town, and I think the board's in agreement with that this is something, there was a presentation that was made by Pictometry, and we were all pretty impressed with it, and I think it's going to be useful software for the town of Carmel. And as John mentioned, its residents also.
And
So.
just the one other thing I may add is, like, because we keep talking about like how the building department's going to use it if things have changed. We currently use Google Maps. We have an account with Google Maps, and Google Maps is basically doing a very similar thing. This is more of a sophisticated piece of information or software that will help us. So a lot of the things that Kenny's been saying that, you know, will help with the size of the building or if things have changed, we're already doing that for the past couple of years. Even when I was on the zoning board, the building department would use Google Maps to actually see who added a shed, who added a pool, or what wasn't on their property card and stuff like that. Again, this is really one thing that Susie and I and even the board has been trying to do is to upgrade the town into the 21st century with a new website, with new software for the town, and also with something like this as opposed to just using Google Maps or Google Earth, I should say. So this is just another added on. It's not just solely for enforcement. It does provide enforcement, but it's also to provide information to the general public when they log on. So.
Okay, good. Thank you, John. Thanks, Susie. All right, so Greg, for next week's town board meeting, can you include the, you have a proposal from Pictometry, you have the
Correct.
actual agreement, the proposed agreement?
And there'll be a resolution for you to consider accepting the proposal.
Okay, great, thank you. All right. Okay, that concludes the agenda items for this evening. It was a short meeting. We just had the public hearing and 4 work session items. So I'm going to ask if there's any members of the public that would like to come up at this time on agenda items only, and then we'll go on to new business. Mike?
Mike Borelli, this technology that you're bidding out on now, this isn't new because they've been using this in Florida for a while, correct?
It's been used in the industry. It has.
Let me ask you
quite
a question. Why are we spending $30,000 now when the reval is probably 75% done? And why didn't we do this a year ago before we started the reval? Probably would have made the reval a little easier.
We didn't learn about this software. We actually learned about it from the reval company.
I would have hoped they told you this went before they started the deal.
It was about the same time.
It was around the same time that they started.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Optometry
is,
You go into open forum? As soon as nobody
unless
else-
there's anyone else who wants to come up on agenda items only? Probably not. Okay, no, there's not. So we'll go right into the open forum.
Okay, as usual, there really is nobody here, which probably is one of the reasons why I'm bringing up the next thing. I speak for the 3 of us I came in with and myself 4. And 3 or 4 business associates and local residents and my attorneys, okay, who are away or couldn't make the short notice that I gave them for tonight's meeting. But between the four of us, I added it up, it was actually pretty funny. We have 198 years living in the town of Carmel. Three people were born and raised here, spent their entire lives here, almost 200 years. That's pretty significant. And also, we've had almost 80 years of continuing business, making our livelihoods on Route 6 in Mahopac. So, and we pay over $500,000 in taxes. So with all due modesty, I think that makes us kind of experts in what I'm going to bring up. Over the last 10 to 15 years, with the last 2 or 3 especially, I see things happening in this town that are just plain wrong. And that's the only way of putting it. They're just wrong. And I'd like to express my thoughts to you, directly to the board, on this. The inconsistencies in some departments to certain business owners and/or developers are disgraceful. The town of Carmel has a different set of rules and standards for different people. It's documented. You have selective zoning enforcement, which is outright disgraceful and illegal. And with that statement on the zoning enforcement, I want to make this perfectly clear that I am not referring to the building department, for the record. And it's time that these issues have to be discussed. And I want to know in what form you would like it presented to you. You want it in a presentation form with a PowerPoint presentation? Would you like it in billboard form? I mean, it's going to take a while. It's going to take probably a half hour to an hour. If you need signatures, I could bring you as many as you want. But I think it's something that's been, has to be addressed. And I just don't want to come up here and halfway wing it. I want to be able to show you. I want to be able to explain to you. I want to be able to give you simple facts.
If the purpose of the presentation would be to review the employment performance of individuals within the town, the suggestion I would have would be that whatever submission that Mr. Burley wants to present to the board be presented, okay, in whatever form, in paper form, and the board would be bound, in my view, to discuss the contents of it as it relates to the performance of any of the town employees in executive session.
I've never been shy on voicing my opinion on town employees, so you don't have to worry about that.
And he's entitled to say whatever he wants here within the board's own governing rules for the meetings. But your discussions regarding whatever the comments are, whatever the evidence is presented, has to be within the context of executive session because they're employees of rights, okay, one way or the other. And if there's actions that are taken or not taken, you discuss that in that form. And if you take an action, then it's got to be taken in public form. But the discussion leading up to it goes that way. So in terms of...
That's what I'm saying. I don't want to stand up here and do something wrong or out of, you know, I want to do it respectfully and I want to do it correctly. I mean, you don't have to answer me this evening, but I would like an answer next week. We'll give you time to discuss it.
You can submit whatever he likes. You should consider it and discuss at least at the outset in executive session, okay? Just because it has to lead to that particular topic.
I'm sorry, I have a hearing problem with the echo in here.
What echo? Anyway, you can present it in whatever form the board would want it. I would think that some sort of paper submission or written submission with whatever documentation, supporting documentation you have in mind, gets to the board, and the initial action of the board would have to be to consider it and discuss it in executive session. If there's any actions that are taken regarding anything.
So are you asking me to present a package to the board members before I present it like this, with this in front of me?
I would think that would be the only way to start it, okay?
No.
And where it goes after that's going to be up to the board.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that. All right, let's wait till the next meeting, and they'll have somebody speak for me, because they couldn't be here tonight. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mike, if it's regarding the employment history of a particular
No, absolutely not.
or performance of a particular employee, then that would be inappropriate to discuss that out here. I think that's what, Greg, is that what you're?
I wouldn't embarrass anybody publicly.
If not,
I tease you guys, embarrass you guys publicly,
yeah.
but you're voted into office, you can be embarrassed publicly. But I wouldn't do that to an employee.
My thought on only was that if it's a historical chronology of things that have happened within a given department or departments, the board's duty would be to look into it to the extent that what employees or employee were involved in it, and that gets into the discussion of performance, one way or the other.
Well,
if it
that's
touches
for you-
on
that's
it,
for you to figure out.
their own discussion should be an executive. That's all I'm saying. You can present whatever the board wants to let you present within the rules of the meeting, at the public meeting. What it goes to their position is how they comment on it and how they act on it, and where that's done. That's all.
Greg,
Thank you.
just to clarify, Greg, when you say present to the board in executive session, we could invite Mr. Borelli or a representative in to present, or do they just hand a package, we review it, and then we follow up with questions?
You can invite a civilian, non-board member into executive session, or non-employee into executive session, as long as the invitation is done at the public forum. You're moving to go into executive session, and the board is inviting this individual in for the purposes of this particular topic. It has to be done out in the public.
Sure.
Okay? And then you can. Or you can do it where there's just a presentation, and you discuss it in executive. There's no, as long as you maintain that particular procedure with respect to non-executive personnel, it can be done that way as well.
okay, all right, Mike. So we'll talk. I'll get back to you, and we'll.
I'll get back.
All right, okay, thanks, Mike. Is there anyone else that would like to come up? This is the open forum, new business portion of the town board meeting. Okay, there being none, I have a couple of announcements to make before we close the meeting. First one is Carmel Town Hall will be closed Monday, September 7th, 2015, in observance of Labor Day. Offices will reopen on Tuesday, September 8th, 2015, at 8:30 a.m. So once again, we're closed in observance of Labor Day on Monday, September 7th. We'll reopen the following day, Tuesday, September 8th. This might be a little early to announce this, but I was asked to announce this this evening, Breakfast with Santa. We're jumping the gun a little bit, I guess, right? We have a little time. Breakfast with Santa, Town of Carmel Recreation and Parks Department. Date is Sunday, December 13th, 10 a.m., Sycamore Park, Long Pond Road. This is why I'm announcing it tonight. The registration begins August 17th. August 17th, registration begins. It's $9 per resident with ID cards, ages 2 and up, and it's $15 per non-resident for Breakfast with Santa. So registration begins August 17th, which passed, but registration is currently ongoing.
How about for the Easter hunt? Is that next week?
Yeah, I'll have that announcement for next week for registration starting on January 1st.
I haven't bought my Halloween costume yet.
Also, just a couple other quick announcements. I made this announcement last Wednesday, and we're still getting e-waste that residents are dropping off at the e-waste site, which is on McAlpin Avenue up from the town hall. They're dropping electronics items off after the operation hours. The hours of operation are from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So after 2 p.m., you cannot bring any e-waste to the e-waste site. They are closed. Do not drop it off outside of the container. In the parking lot adjacent to the container, we're posting signs there this week. There's going to be a camera up there. We're asking residents, please comply to this and do not drop off anything. And it's only for e-waste that container is there for. We're getting washing machines, refrigerators, dryers, white metal, doors, frames, kitchen cabinets, countertops. That is not a...
Not a dump.
It's not a dump. And there's an antenna up there now, an antenna off a house, and there's a clothes dryer up there.
Is there a camera up there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there will be. There will be this.
Yeah, we might need to invest
this
in
week
multiple
is-
cameras to read license plates and
This
pictorials.
camera will. This camera will. So please, we're just asking you to, we're open for 4 hours on Saturdays, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. every Saturday. Get there within that 4-hour block. If you can't, hold on to your items until the following Saturday at 10 a.m. Do not drop anything off in the parking lot outside of the container. If those doors are closed, the container is closed. You cannot drop anything off there. So we're asking you to please cooperate. I know everybody wants to get rid of their stuff right away and get it out of their car or truck, whichever, but keep it in there till the following Saturday, or just bring it there between 10 and 2. We have somebody there, the Town of Carmel employee, to help you remove your items from your car and to put it in the container. It's that simple, but don't go there after 2 o'clock, because to be honest with you, every Monday morning I don't want to show up here at Town Hall and drive by the e-waste container and see a pile of old TVs and other stuff dumped there. And I know the highway superintendent doesn't like to see that either, because that's where his workers, his employees park, in that parking lot, all right? So we're asking for your cooperation. Please, help us out with this. Thank you. Okay, that's all I have. So we do not have executive session this evening. We're going to be closing the meeting from here. I need a motion to close.
Second.
So moved by Councilwoman McDonough, seconded by Councilman Lupinacci to close the meeting. All those in favor?
The Italian.
It's the Italian thing. I mess it up all the time. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everyone. Be well. We'll see you here next Wednesday for Town Board voting meeting.